With phones, as with most things in life, you generally get what you pay for. Aside from a few affordable gems here and there, buying a cheaper Android phone often means preparing for disappointment or at least a few serious compromises. Huawei's Honor brand has always tried to walk this tightrope between affordability and quality to varying degrees of success. The Honor 8 is a fantastic phone for the money, last year's Honor 5X not so much. This year's mid-range Honor phone is the 6X. In a lot of ways, solid improvement from the previous model, and in others you're dealing with some very familiar trade-offs. So let's jump in, this is our Android Central review of the Honor 6X. On the outside, the Honor 6X is an attractive enough phone. In keeping with Huawei and Honor's design language, it's a curvy metal creation broken up by eye-catching chamfers and plastic antenna windows top and bottom. The softer angle of the aluminium back makes it easier and one-handed to use despite its relatively large 5.5-inch screen. It doesn't ooze the premium quality of other metal phones further up the food chain, but it's not overly cheap feeling either. At least not around the back. One really unfortunate holdover from the 5X is the lack of any smudge-resistant oleophobic coating on the screen. There is a factory-fitted screen protector on there out of the box, but this isn't much better and, maddeningly, it isn't even big enough to cover the whole of the display. So unless you can find a better third-party screen protector out there, you'll have to deal with the screen getting noticeably gunked up after any kind of extended use, to say nothing of actually holding it up against your greasy human face to make a phone call. Fingerprints aside, the display itself is a nice looking 5.5-inch 1080p LCD, nothing to write home about in terms of the numbers there, but it ticks all the boxes in terms of colours, contrast, viewing angles, and daylight visibility. And on my European spec 6X, I also haven't run into any of the touch response issues some other reviewers, including our own Florence Ion, have been experiencing, so your mileage may vary there. Beneath that metal shell, Honor has tricked out the 6X with the latest mid-level tech from the Huawei mothership. There's an octa-core Kirin 655 CPU, an upgraded version of the 650 which is a proven chip, and that's backed up by 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage in the base model. The hardware's more than sufficient to keep apps ticking along on a 1080p display, and speedy enough for fast unlocking through the excellent rear-mounted fingerprint scanner. The battery is a hefty 3340 mAh cell, which is pretty big for this kind of phone, and as a result the 6X is a great performer in terms of battery life. It's unlikely that you'll kill it off in under a day unless you're really pushing it. When it is time to charge though, you'll need to settle for yesteryear's micro USB connector, as opposed to the more fashionable USB Type-C. The charging port isn't the only thing that feels a little dated here. The 6X ships on Android Marshmallow with Huawei's EMUI 4.1, as opposed to the newer and much improved Nougat with EMUI 5. The older software isn't horrible, everything certainly works just fine, which is more than I could say about the Honor 5X out of the box, but you'll be dealing with annoyingly non-standard notification panels, app switching menus, and other visuals. This is an aggressively customized offshoot of Android, much more so than you might be used to in the Samsung or LG world. But in a way, that customization is the saving grace of EMUI 4. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can tweak and change, and there are plenty of themes to download, so you've got options for making the UI a bit more palatable. And you'll also benefit from a huge loadout of features and software tricks, many of which, like the battery saving modes here, are genuinely useful. A lot of these software gripes will go away when the 6X gets Android Nougat and EMUI 5 in the next few months. Until then though, you're stuck on old software, which maybe isn't a surprise with this kind of phone. What certainly did surprise me about the Honor 6X though is how great the camera is, again considering the price of this thing. It's got a 12 megapixel main camera behind an f2.2 lens, paired with a 2 megapixel secondary sensor which helps to pick up extra detail and add depth of field effects. The 6X does a reasonable job of approximating how far stuff away is and blurring things out accordingly, not anywhere near as accurate as the Mate 9, but also not terrible. Software trickery aside, shots are quick to capture with punchy, well-balanced colours. The lack of hardware stabilisation means things can get grainy in low light, but honestly I've seen far worse from more expensive phones. And if you're looking for the best camera in a budget phone right now, this might be it. Everything I say about the Honor 6X has to be taken in the context of its price. At $250 or £224, you're going to have to cut some corners. As much as I'm pleased that Honor has been able to deliver a metal body, fingerprint features, and a surprisingly great camera at this price point, I'm disappointed that some of the basics like smudge-resistant screen and up-to-date software seem to have fallen by the wayside. Those are the main trade-offs in the 6X this year. For me, they're not exactly deal-breakers, but it still seems like Huawei is chasing whiz-bang features before getting the essentials in place. Nevertheless, the 6X is a good budget phone and one that'll only get better with the arrival of that all-important software update. That's it for now. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our reviews and other videos, and for more on the Honor 6X, check out our written review on AndroidCentral.com.